guys, welcome to Audrey's reading area. Alexa, what time is Audrey's reading area?
Audrey reads in her area live at 8 o'clock p.m.
Live, live at 8. Shout out to my grandbabies, Korea, Sanaa, David III, Kaden. I love you guys. Miss you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. All right, you guys, don't forget to click like. Don't forget to share my videos. And don't forget to go to YouTube. Look for Audrey's reading area. Audrey's reading area. Smash that subscription for me. Smash it. So this month of February is Black History Month. Black History Month. Black History Month. Yes. So the first one I'm going to read, since I was just got access to these books. Happy birthday, Martin Luther King. Happy birthday, Martin Luther King. His actual birthday is January 15. We celebrated it this year on January 16. And I did read a Dr. Martin Luther King book, but I wanted to save this one for Black History Month. Happy birthday, Martin Luther King. And I think they meant Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yes. By Jean Marzollo, illustrated by J. Brian Pinkney. J. Brian Pinkney. Beautiful illustrations, by the way. Look at these. And look at that. Martin Luther King wanted people to be able to go places together, share food together, and love one another in peace. Because he worked so hard for freedom and helped so many people to gain it, we honor him every year on this special day. So yes, he really does mean Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yes. Okay. So we're going to just jump right into this book and read it. I'm going to read to you guys, and I hope you have listening ears. Listening ears. Always good to have listening ears. And when I finish reading it, you can discuss this book with your parents. So they have a whole lot of knowledge on this. Martin Luther King Jr., they put it here, was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His parents loved him very much. By the way, him and all his siblings were born in his home on Auburn Street in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a historical monument now, and I've gone inside and visited a few times. Very, very nice. I'll probably be trying to go there again this month. Martin Luther King had the same name as his father, except for one thing. His father was called Martin Luther King Sr. Martin was called Martin Luther King Jr. They got it. Jr. Martin went to an elementary, high school, and college in Atlanta. He was a good teacher. He was a good student. Later, he went to divinity school in Pennsylvania. Look at that. Illustrations are beautiful, aren't they? Martin became a pastor, just like his dad, at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. They were both called Reverend. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Sr., and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Martin's job as a minister was to help people in need. He visited sick people in the hospital, and he made them feel better. He asked people not to fight with each other. He said that there were peaceful ways to solve problems. I kind of agree. If everybody can hold down their anger, there are peaceful ways of solving problems. And like his father, Martin led people in prayer and song. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. is famous because he helped our country change some of its laws. He helped our country change some of its laws. A law is like a rule. Once there was a law in some places that said only white people could sit in the front of buses, and black people had to sit in the back. Martin Luther King said this law needed to be changed. Rosa Parks and other people helped him change it. She was the one, the female, the lady, Rosa Parks, that refused to get out of her seat and go to the back of the bus. Now all people can sit in an empty seat that they like. Miss Rosa Parks. Good listening, guys. Once there were laws in some places that said African Americans or black people could use only certain restaurants and drinking fountains. Martin Luther King and many other people helped change these laws. Now all people can share the same restaurants and drinking fountains. See, there was one for white people, white, and then there was another one for colored people that nobody really cleaned or took care of, and it was very filthy and dirty, and they had black people, colored people drinking from the colored one. That's how they distinguished it before. They kept this one all nice and clean, fresh water. Yeah. Once there was a law, I read it already, I'm going to read it again. There were laws in some places that said African Americans could only use certain restaurants and drinking fountains. Martin Luther King and many other people helped change these laws. Now all people can share the same restaurants and drinking fountains. And this is the picture for that. Yep. Once there was a law in some places that said black children and white children couldn't go to school together. Martin Luther King and other people, including many very brave children, had this law changed too. Now black children and white children can go to school together. And Asian and all colors, that's right. Martin Luther King had a special talent for leadership. When he spoke, people listened. Poor people, rich people, white people, black people, and people from all around the world listened when Martin Luther King Jr. spoke. Many helped him work, march, sing, and pray for justice. They did a lot of marches to stand up for our rights. We shall overcome. In the summer of 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave the most famous speech of his life. That's the I Had a Dream speech. He gave it outdoors to 250,000 people who had come to Washington, D.C. to ask the president for jobs and freedom for black people. In his speech, Martin Luther King Jr. said that he had a dream. His dream was that people everywhere would learn to live together without being mean to one another. Love the illustrations. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed in 1968. Because he loved poor people so much, he was given a special funeral in Atlanta, Georgia, where he was born. His body was put in a simple farm cart and pulled slowly by 2 mules to a cemetery. Thousands of people walked behind Martin in a sad, loving parade. On his gravestone were carved these beautiful words: "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last." That was part of his speech. Now, when you go downtown to Auburn Street and you check out all of this, they have, because his wife passed away, they have his wife right next to it. Says his wife's name right next to it, Coretta Scott King. Martin Luther King wanted people to be able to go places together, share food together, and love one another in peace. Because he worked so hard for freedom and helped so many people gain it, we honor him every year on his special day. We call this day Dr. Martin Luther King Day, Jr. Day. And we say to him, happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now they have happy birthday, Martin Luther King. I've added the doctor and the junior part. So I'm going to say it again. We call this day Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And we say to him, happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Stevie Wonder wrote a song for him, a happy birthday song. And it goes like, happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Goes something like that. Something like that. Well, the end of the book. There is a little piece in the front that is forward to parents and teachers. So if you want to pause this and read it, you can. But I'm going to read it to you because we're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. here. So I'm going to read this too. Forward for parents and for teachers. The tragic fact of Martin Luther King's murder may be too difficult and too distracting for preschoolers to deal with. If you feel that the words shot and killed on page 30 are inappropriate for the child or children that you plan to read this book to, you may want to change the words and say simply that Martin Luther King Jr. died in 1968. It isn't, after all, necessary for us to tell very young children the harsh details about Reverend King's death in order to convey to them the central message of this inspirational leadership. And perhaps that is why when we tell young children the story of Abraham Lincoln, we usually don't tell them that he was assassinated either. We seem to sense that young children can wait until they're older to learn about these terrible realities. And yet, because Martin Luther King Jr.'s murder is, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s murder is still fresh in our minds, we may want to tell children about his death and to include them in the process of our unfinished grief. I believe that if we handle the subject sensitively, we will find that children like ourselves can look at truth and cope with death, even violent death, and that they, like us, will find through grieving that death gives meaning to life. This was written by Jean Marzollo, who is the author of this book. Happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King. And thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you tomorrow live, L-I-V-E, live at 8. Thanks, Mom, for always being here. Yes, my mom is here and she shows support every day, as will you guys. I'm sure you'll be here every day watching my videos, checking out my videos, and listening to me read fun and exciting books like this. Yes. So I ask you to please click like and share my videos, and go to YouTube and share my videos and subscribe for me. Hit that subscribe button. You guys are doing a great job with sharing my videos. Thank you so much, everyone who shares my videos, especially my cousin Elliot and my friend Victoria. Thank you so much. And I will see you again live, L-I-V-E, live at 8 tomorrow.